Welcome to ProjectME the Podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multi-millionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME the Podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. You are listening to ProjectME with Tiffany Carter, the podcast. Hey guys, this episode is designed for those of you who want to step up your social media game and establish yourself as even a social media influencer in your field. So I have brought on the founder and president of AMR Digital Marketing, Analiese Ross, and she is a social media expert and a power boss babe. Hey Analiese, how's it going?
Hi Tiffany, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Everything's going great.
People love to know, how did I find you? Do I just pick random people? No, almost nothing is random. I believe in divine timing and pairing. But, in ProjectME, we teach all things wealth and worth. And a big component, if you want to start a side hustle, you have one, you want to start a company, you have to have a digital component now. I don't care if you even have a mechanic business. You have to have a digital component. So I brought on a digital marketing expert for you. So when did you start your company?
So AMR started really 2 years ago officially. Before that, I was kind of doing this as, like you said, like a side hustle. I had always been interested in this field and more as a consumer. I was following bloggers, following influencers. I was like, wow, this is the life to live. I don't know if I'm necessarily a fashionista who is qualified to be taking photos of myself every day, but traveling the world, promoting things authentically that you actually enjoy and just creating these amazing communities was something I was really into as a consumer. So I started really helping some of my family friends, some just people I knew through networking who had their own businesses, who were struggling with social media, and we're like, well, you're a young person, you like this stuff. Maybe you could help us out. That's how it really started. And I got into it and I realized I had kind of a different perspective just from being on the consumer side and seeing what I really identified as being salesy and not working and being just kind of when you follow a business and it's just ads, that's when you go and you unfollow. And so a lot of businesses were kind of misaligned from what the bloggers were doing. And I kind of noticed this disconnect. And I was like, I was just trying this out for some of my friends. So I was like, why don't we go in this other direction where we go more towards building community, towards outreaching to people, towards educating, and really ditch the sales pitch for now and just try it and see how it goes. And we started seeing amazing results. And so from there, it really was word of mouth. And people were like, oh my gosh, you're amazing at this. You need to do it for my friend so-and-so. And I know another person who has a business, and down the line, you know how word of mouth works. So that was really how we started the first year. And it wasn't until I had really a full client base that I decided, well, I'm doing this for everyone else. I'm marketing everyone else online, building their socials. Why don't I do it for myself as well? And that was what really made the difference for AMR for me when we started seeing really scalable growth. And it's been really exciting. I love it. I love seeing people get excited about it because social media can be frustrating when you're working all the time, putting out content and nothing's happening.
That's exactly why I brought you on, because, I've had those frustrations too. And, I'm someone who has more experience in that field and I still have frustrations. It's a lot of work. Pumping out content that is thoughtful and strategic and well written and that's a job by itself, right?
Oh yeah. It's a full-time job just managing social media for one business. And it really is, now that the world is so digital, it's like the storefront of your business online. People go to your website maybe once a month, but people are seeing your social media every single day. So it's really a visual thing that's out there to the world, and it's not getting the attention of, like, say, your website. I mean, you wouldn't give your intern your website to redesign, whereas a lot of companies are like, oh, you're young, you can do the social media, which is how I started. But there really is a strategy to it, and there really is a way to do it and see results. And you need to see those results to stay motivated. Otherwise, you just feel like, why am I doing this? And you're caught. And
what would you say for people, whether, whether it's a side hustle or they currently have, they have a little, like 1,000 people following them on, let's say, Instagram. And they're like, I want to be able to, make money off this. That's such a common question I get. I know you probably get that all the time. What do you say to those people?
So there's two parts. Usually the first thing I would tell them is, you have 1,000 people. That's 1,000 heads. You have to think of those as real people, not as numbers. Think of yourself standing in a room speaking in front of 1,000 people, and your mindset's going to shift about what you're posting. You're not going to put out some post you thought of for 5 minutes and found some picture, threw it together. No, you're going to prepare for that. You're going to want to present something, because this is 1,000 people. That's a lot of people if you really put it in perspective. But in today's world, I know that all of us want to grow beyond 1,000 people. We want to have the tens of thousands of people and the hundreds of thousands of people. And so the way to get that is really, there's two parts of social media. There's the content, which is what we all know, and we all know that's important. We all know how to make the content, all of that. That's really what we think of when we think traditional social media management. But that's really only like 30% of the equation. The other 70% is you have to be social. You have to be going out and finding your people, and drawing them into you. So going out, engaging with them, and engaging with the right people, which is why it's so tailored to each brand. If you're a natural food brand and you're going out and engaging with all of these people who are traveling the world, if there's a disconnect, they're not as interested. You have to find the people who are already interested and already engaging with this content. And those are the people who are going to give you real results and who are actually going to buy from you, actually going to want to be part of your community.
And when you're saying engaging, what I'm gathering is you're saying proactive engagement, not just reactive, like replying to someone's comments or DMs to you, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, every single comment, DM should be responded to. Someone took the time to reach out to you. That's a given. That you need to be responding to every single thing. That every time a customer tries to make contact with you, or a follower or a friend or anyone, you need to be responding to that. But beyond that, what I mean by engagement is going out and actually finding the people who you want to have in your community and start talking to them, ask them questions, get them engaged. I mean, comment on their stuff. And the thing is that when you do find the right people, they're interesting to you because they're in your industry. You're already interested in that. You're passionate about it. They're passionate about it. It fits. So if you're having a hard time finding those people, you're having a hard time like, oh, what do I comment? What do I say? Then they're probably not the right person to comment on. Like, you want the conversation to flow naturally. And that's the part that takes time.
So it's like if we can use maybe let's use travel as an example, since you and I both share a major passion for travel. Like that's my big motivator in life is helping people and making a lot of money so I can travel in luxury.
I am so with you.
So let's say it's someone who's like, oh, I want to, have the laptop lifestyle and travel the world and gain enough of a following, we can do that. A lot of people think, okay, so if I do, all the hashtags like hashtag wanderlust, hashtag travel, hashtag traveler, that all the people interested in that will just come to me. But what you're saying is, no, you have to go to them.
Yeah, exactly. And people will come. I mean, as you grow, more people will come to you, more people will find you. But to get your account moving, and even still, you still need to do the work. You can tell the difference of, and I'm sure that all of you out there have a blogger or an influencer or a brand that you follow. And Maybe you comment on their stuff. And when they respond to you or when someone like that reaches out to you, it's impactful. You remember that. And it makes you like the brand. It makes you want to buy from them. It makes you want to engage with them. And that's really what social media is about. And it's so easy to get caught up in all of these numbers and get caught up in, oh, like there's billions of people out there. I need to have 100,000 followers. Like, yes, you need to have 100,000 followers, but if there are 100,000 random people, chances are maybe 1% of them will like what you're doing. It's way better to have 10,000 where 50% are interested and engaged.
That's a great point. And I mean, I know the frustration for myself, and I hear it from so many people, especially like when I go and I'm researching and following people who give like really good social media tips. People are so frustrated because they're like, well, I'm doing all the things. I have beautiful photos. I have thoughtful content. I'm using all the hashtags. I'm replying to everybody. And I'm maybe getting like 2 followers a week. Like, what the fuck?
Exactly. It's so frustrating. And then your content starts to go downhill because you're like, well, no one's even coming. So I just have to put this out till we get big and then I'll have the good content. But no, you have to have the good content now, but you have to be outreaching. You have to be finding your people. You have to be being social. And the thing about social media that's so cool is that it really does level the playing field for different size businesses. I mean, you don't have to have a giant budget to do this. You just have to put in the work. You just have to take the time to actually engage. And I mean, I do it every morning for an hour and every night for an hour, which is a lot of time. But I walk on my treadmill or I walk my dog and I go through and I search Instagram and I find all of my people and I start talking to them. And then throughout the day, it grows. And throughout the night, it grows. And that's your motivation. And the people that you meet, I mean, if you're finding the right people and you're really taking the time, you meet some amazing people.
That's true. I have met some, and I'm an introvert, so social media is perfect for me because it kind of breaks the ice, you know? Yeah. And so I've met like real like friends who are like-minded through it as well, which is so cool. But I know what so many of you are thinking. But I have reached out to people. I do chat with people. And I'm still not growing. Like, how do all these people, how does like Susie Smith from Texas have 20,000 followers and she really like doesn't do anything? Like, it's not like she's known for anything. How does that girl have it? What do you say to that?
And it's so true. The thing that Susie is most likely doing, and there's a lot of the thing about social media is there's tons of different avenues to get to that end result. So you can do a million different things. Maybe she's partnering with bloggers to get more exposure. Maybe she has fake followers. Maybe she is going out and hustling every single day, liking and following and commenting on millions of people and like creating this huge community. So you really have to focus inward on your brand when it comes to this and what type of people are your people, because Susie's people are probably not your people unless you're doing the exact same thing that she's doing. So the way you find your people is by finding, say, maybe influencers in your field who are doing really well on social media and are doing something, and it doesn't have to be the same thing that you do. Like maybe for me, I do social media management for startups. So I go out and I find like the influencers who are really hot in the tech startups right now, or the people who are really inspiring entrepreneurs right now, entrepreneur magazines, people like you, Tiffany, and those people, the people who are following those people and engaging with them. I mean, those are my people. Those are the people I want to get to know, and I want to bring them in because if they like what these other people are doing, chances are they're going to like what I'm doing too. So it's really trying to get inside of their head, and it's really about, I can't emphasize it enough, about finding the right people. Because if you're going out and just engaging randomly, it's going to be, you're just shooting out into the world and hoping you randomly hit someone who's interested.
You brought up I call it probably the most controversial topic in social, which is buying followers, buying fans. I have a unique opinion on that. I'm very curious what your opinion is. If you think there's any time that there is an appropriate use to do a little bit of that, or if you're an absolute hells no.
So I think that when it comes to fake followers, the industry of social media is changing so quickly. So when social media first came out and people were first starting to see these influencers with thousands and hundreds of thousands of followers, everyone wanted that. Then the fake followers came out and everyone was like, this is great. Like, let's grab onto all these fake followers. Let's buy them. Because they saw the amazing results from having big audiences. And the reason that the attitude towards it has changed lately, especially and it depends on if you're a blogger or you're a brand. If you're trying to sell something, fake followers are never going to become customers and they're never going to engage because they're not real people. So it doesn't do you any good. If you're a blogger and you're looking to have big numbers, maybe there's an argument for it. I work with businesses, so I'm looking for engagement, looking for real, authentic people, and looking for people who are going to want to be part of this community. It's about building the community at the end of the day. Another thing that's kind of coming back to hurt the fake followers is now that people know about them, there's all of these apps and programs to track how many of your followers are real. And if you want to do affiliate marketing or you want to do brand deals down the line and get that passive income coming in, that's going to hurt you in the future. And it's not the type of thing to be like, oh, they have fake followers, let's shun them, they're horrible, because it was a trend and everyone was doing it for a while. So if you have them, there's nothing you can do about it. But you can start now building on top of that. I mean, you can't change the past, but you can work now and you can build. I mean, the thing about social is every day is a new day. You can completely change your direction one day and start fresh. It's the same thing you're doing, just different target.
So you're pretty much in line with my opinion on it, because I don't think that you need to shut down your accounts because back in the day you bought them because you just didn't know any better, or that's what your friend who's actually making a shit ton of money or getting a lot of customers to their Etsy store or whatever did. So you just mimicked that, but in the digital world, things change so quickly. So it's not like you have to shut down that account because of it. Like you said, you can build on top of it. It's okay, yeah. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's a lot of almost shame going around towards this fake followers thing now that it's out and that it's so frowned upon. And the thing is that it was a trend. That's how the digital world works. Things are changing every single day. So if that's something that you did, you're not like blacklisted from social media forever. You like every day is a new chance. Build on top of that and it's going to be a little bit harder because you're going to have a lower engagement rate because those people are always going to be pulling you down, but it's not impossible at all. And really social media is about being real. So be real with people and tell them if you're that embarrassed about it, don't keep it a secret. Be like, this is why my engagement rate is low because I bought fake followers and now I know it's wrong.
What would you say is a good range, like a range that you'd go, no, that's a good result for an engagement rate? Like, what's the ratio?
So engagement rates are when I first got into this industry, I was shocked by how low like the average engagement rate was. I was like, oh my God, like these accounts with 1 million people have 3% engagement. That is nothing. So engagement is low on average. That doesn't mean that everyone is low. And the thing is that as your following grows, your engagement will naturally go down. So when you're like from between 500 and 10,000, you should aim for like a 10%, 15% engagement rate. That's pretty normal because most of the people, when you're 500 and below, all the people are probably your friends and family and they care about you and are going to like everything. So you're going to be really skewed on your results there. But once you start getting into real followers from like the 500 to 10,000, 10 to 15% is a good range to shoot for. Once you start hitting like the 500,000 to 1 million, it really drops to like 5 or 3%, which that's like the big thing with micro influencers now is a lot of people want to stay small, and they want to, by small, I mean like between 10,000 and 500,000, which is still very big. But they want to have that community, because once you hit the millions of people, it's more of a platform, and it's more you're speaking to a giant audience versus it's not a two-way conversation anymore.
Yeah, because I notice the people who actually get paid, paid to post or get, sponsorship deals, or they get sent clothes to wear and post those, influence. That to me is also an influencer. You're influencing the purchasing power of a brand, or influencing people to like or buy that brand. What I've noticed is they don't necessarily have to have millions of followers, like a Kim Kardashian. They can have like 20,000, but their engagement is huge.
Yeah, exactly. And they have a community. So really, when you have that tight knit community, it's about trust, and they're giving, and one thing I always tell clients is it's really exciting once you hit the like 10,000, 20,000, like you're like, oh wow, like things are picking up and you start seeing growth happening a lot faster. But you want to be careful, because that's when you have all this trust. You have this trusted community who's really rallying around you and wanting you to succeed and wanting to see what your content, and you're exchanging value daily. And so if you go out and start promoting something that's totally off brand just because they offer you a lot of money, it's going to hurt you. So the thing with micro influencers is they kind of, the biggest value in being a micro influencer is the trust, and really cultivating that community and that trust within it. And so there are brand deals that'll come around, and there are promotions, and take whatever promotion you want if it's on brand with you. If it's something that you are really love and support, and they are going to pay you for it, that is awesome. That is your passive income coming in. But if there's some sketchy looking class and they want to pay you to promote it on their page, it doesn't, no matter how much they're offering you, it's just not worth it when you're at that small point, because your followers are depending on you for valuable information and for as a trustworthy source. And if you lose that, then that's really, you've lost the power of your audience.
How do you gauge and manage expectations with clients in terms of time, right? Like, let's say they come to you because you said, your expertise is, small business startup. They come to you and they have 1,000 followers, and we can just use maybe Instagram as the platform of example. What would you say to them in terms of an expectation to get to that 10,000 mark?
That's a great question. Usually what I say is a great target to aim for per month is 1,000 followers per month. And that will get you at like the 10,000 mark within 1 year. So 1 year, you want basically consistent growth of about 1,000 a month. And granted, Instagram's always changing. The algorithm's always changing where your content shows up. So some weeks will be really slow, and some weeks will be really fast, but you want to be putting out the same amount of output and engagement and that's about 250 followers a week. So 50 a day if you take off a couple of days. And so it depends on, once you hit those, how fast you can hit that is basically the time. And really what goes into how fast you can hit that is how well you can target the people that you're engaging with. And that's really something that's learned over time, and that you see with different accounts, or maybe you post different content for a week and then who you're targeting changes. But really it's steady growth, and 1,000 a month is a nice maintainable rate that you're not going to like get all these followers and lose them all. You can still get to know them. You can still actually engage. And then once you hit the 10,000 mark is when you start seeing a little bit more exponential growth. Before then, it's really linear, grinding every day, going out, trying to get people, trying to engage people. 10,000 is when you have enough exposure that they're seeing you in other ways. And it's not just you having to go out and show them like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what you're doing. It lines up.
Yes, that totally makes sense. Do you feel or advise, your clients, when people hire your company to create these great engaged followers, do you recommend that they are posting on multiple platforms daily, like Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest?
Yeah. So social media, the world of social media is endless. You could wear yourself out for 24 hours a day trying to be the best on every platform and just still not even know what you're doing, or still be like, oh my God, there's still all these other things I need to do also. So my advice, and this depends on the size of your business and how many resources you have and how much you want to allocate to it. If you want to have a different person on every platform creating specialized content, that's awesome. If you're a small business or you're trying to launch your business, you're trying to grow an audience, get people excited about what you're doing, say it's just you, focus on one platform. Focus on the platform that you are the most comfortable with and that you think that your customers are. And usually when you're starting a business, you want to work with like-minded people. So usually they line up, and focus on one and go really strong on one. And you can put the content out to all of them. In case maybe there's someone who only uses Facebook and you're on Instagram. But don't wear yourself so thin that you're not getting traction on any. Get traction on one, and once you grow a little, you can start tailoring all of the other platforms. You can start allocating more resources to it. Social media can take over your life if you don't prioritize it.
Well, I think it has most people. And then, especially if you're creating like a digital-based business where you're wanting to have digital courses, or you have a store, whether it's Etsy, you're directing people to, or your own store on, your own site or whatever it is, you need to be focusing on new products or creating even your products if you're the person who creates them, or actually doing the stuff that makes you money. If you have, a car business or something and you do custom cars, you have to actually work. So if you can get so consumed with social that you're not doing you're not focusing on the products that you want to actually sell to make money.
It's so true. And when you start a business, you wear a million hats. You're the accountant and the finance person and the salesperson and the product development, and you're doing everything. So you have to be able to block out your time and really manage it so that you're not just drawn out and lost in the land of social. So the way that I recommend doing it is, and what we do for all of our clients, is we schedule 2 days out of the month. On the 1st and the 15th, we basically create all of our content. All of our photos, we plan it all out ahead of time so it's all cohesive. We have a structure. So that's part of creating your social media strategy, is what is your goal of this? Like, what are you trying to give to your clients? And it can't be a sales pitch. It has to be something that is actually valuable. You have to think of it as you're just giving. And someday it'll come back to you, but right now you're just giving. And you're going to be giving for a long time. So just get that in your head that all you're doing is giving for free. And so you sit down 2 days of the month, plan out every single thing. So then your content's taken care of. You update it maybe for 10 minutes in the morning so it's current. If something happens that day in the news and you want to address it, you can update your caption to address that and make sure that it's relevant. But you want to get into the groove. It's really writing and creating, which is something you have to get your mind into and focus. You get in your groove and then you do it. Then the rest of the days, you have time to just set aside maybe 1 hour to engage and grow. And that's all. But you really do have to plan it out because, we all know we've all gotten lost stalking people on Instagram, and before you know it, you're 2 hours.
You're on your ex-boyfriend from 10 years ago, Aunt Sally's Instagram.
5 years back.
That's so true. Oh my God, that's hysterical. Yeah, you can really get lost in anything else, you guys. It's not haphazard and you need a plan. But I do know, a lot of people out there go, oh, I became this influencer, in 6 months, I went from this to this. And that does happen, right? There are cases where that does happen.
Yeah. And the way that things go viral, there's kind of a randomness to it, but there's also kind of a science to it. So most of the people and most bloggers, so we work a lot with bloggers with mostly connecting them to businesses, matching them. Once you start to get your numbers up there and maybe you want to tap off of their audience and they're interested in what you do, we kind of make those connections. So we work indirectly with a lot of bloggers, and almost all of them, because I'm always picking their brain. I'm interested in this stuff too. How did you go viral? How did you start? What happened? And most all of them partnered with other influencers, worked for other influencers, worked for someone else who had a big audience. So it's really, social media is really about collaboration. It's really about sharing. I mean, just because someone follows one person doesn't mean they can't follow you too. There's like an abundance of people out there, and it's not a competition the way it is like traditionally in some sales markets where if they buy your product, they're not going to buy yours. Well, they can follow both of you and engage with both of you, and both of you can benefit from that.
Would you say that, how important would you say is it for businesses, especially, speaking of maybe smaller businesses, to have things that generate traffic going to your various social pages, like blogs or, like we're on a podcast right now? How important is that to have those traffic funnels?
So the thing that's kind of interesting about that is when you first start, it's really important to have everything pointing towards your social. But then if you really can get your social media strategy down, the goal is within about a year or so, your social media is pointing to everything else. You want your social media to be driving all of your traffic to your website, to be driving everyone to your podcast, to be driving everyone to whatever you have a new product release. You already have the audience. So at first, you're trying to get everyone to come over to social media, but the turnaround is very quick within about a year. And of course, you have to be growing within that first year. But within about a year, usually most of our clients will see more than 50% of their website traffic shift to coming from social versus coming from other things. So it's interesting that way, and that it kind of, everything's always flowing back and forth.
Do you recommend doing ads? I'm an expert in doing Facebook ads. I had to become an expert owning a PR company I still own it for 10 years. So I had to figure that out, which is good. I became an expert in it. But what do you feel about using ads to increase your audience size?
So I think that Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Twitter ads, they're great for small businesses in that they're affordable. You don't have to spend a huge amount of money to get results, which is what we all want as small businesses. However, if you're trying to build a following, like I said kind of before, you really have to drop all of the sales pitch. No one wants to follow a sales pitch or be sold to every day. So you have to, if you're going to do paid ads, they have to be valuable and they have to be something that your audience would actually care about. And usually that means it's actionable. So if maybe you're teaching something that they can actually go out and do, and then they do it and they're like, wow, that was incredible, and think of you. So that's the number one tip. It has to be valuable if you're going to post it. Number two, I think that you have to really, really be careful who you're targeting for paid ads, because you only want the followers who are actually genuinely engaged. You don't want the people who are there just because you paid for an ad and then they saw it and they were like, okay, well, whatever, I'll follow. So Facebook ads, usually I tell clients they're really, really great for if you have a launch, you have a product coming out, you have something big you want to announce, you really want to push it. If you really want to build a community, though, I would go organic.
And I know every single person who's listening is like, oh, fuck. Because organic means natural, means you have to do the work, just like she explained in the call, where you have to dedicate time. Now, I put a high value on everyone's time, including mine. And one of the things I teach is for people to quantify their time. How much is an hour of your time worth? Like an hour, I know what an hour of an hour of my straight time at a base level is worth $300 at a base level, where I'm at currently. Okay. So if I am if I am focusing on building my community for 2 hours a day, that's $600 a day. So for me, and for many of you listening, it is actually a better return on investment to hire, someone like, your firm, AMR Digital Marketing, to hire you guys, right?
Yeah. And that's really, we get so many requests for people who want us to teach or want us to consult. And when we first started, we were doing that. But the thing is that as a business owner, you have so many things on your plate that usually social media is one of those things that it falls back. Oh, I'll do that tomorrow. We'll do that next month. Or maybe you do it a little, you're not seeing any results. So you're like, well, I'm not going to spend more time on this thing that's just like a time suck. So that's why we kind of have shifted. We really don't teach anymore. And we try to tell people that it's like giving this away, give it to someone else, give it to us. We'll take care of everything. You go on once a month, track it twice a month. You approve all the posts when we schedule them ahead of time. So you go through and look at them. That's your time to check all of the work. And that's where you really get involved. Otherwise, we're really a lead source for you. We engage all of your customers. We comment on them. We answer any messages. Anyone who's coming to the next step of the sales funnel is sent to you. And that's where your job in social should be. That's where your attention as a business owner really should be, is on cultivating the people who are in the funnel, in the sales funnel, not on like widening the funnel. That's something that can be easily outsourced, and that really takes, the time that it takes for someone who doesn't use social media very much to do this, probably 4 times the amount of time it takes someone who does this every single day, all day.
Yep. Especially if you are, not technically savvy, and you could be 20 and not technically savvy. It's a little more strange, but there's just people who, aren't into it. And now you're trying to force, a square peg into a round hole. You're like out of your zone of genius by doing that. And I look at it, outsourcing is a huge way of how I grew to a 7-figure business. But I get that when people start, you're wanting to save that money. But if you go with, a firm like AMR, for example, they scale with you. Like I said this on another podcast. I don't remember which one, but you want to pair with someone who scales with you. Maybe you're only generating this much, so you can only spend this much. Your results will vary based on what you can spend, right? But you scale with people, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about, any entrepreneur's goal is you want to learn a little bit about everything so then you can give it away to someone who's better than you at it. That's the goal of every aspect of your business as an entrepreneur. Sure, you have to learn a little accounting so you can get by, but ideally you want to hire an accountant. Ideally, you want to hire someone to do all of this. So really, our goal is that we've seen how powerful this is for small businesses, and we want to bring it to everyone. And really the thing about social media that's so inspiring for us is it's really like, I know a bunch of you have probably heard this like abundance mindset thing, and it's a big buzzword now, but social media is the land of abundance. It's where everyone is, and it's really where everyone is sharing. There's no, you get one and it takes away from another. So we really want to help businesses get there. And what we do to kind of accommodate that is, well, as I said, the first year is really consistent growth, and that's the goal. So we'll work with you to figure out what your business is, what your strategy is, and really make sure we're on the same page. And then we want to take that off your plate completely. And we want to do it for much cheaper and much more efficient than hiring someone. Sure, you could hire a social media manager, but that's not going to be your first hire. You're going to hire someone else who's probably you need more. But in reality, you should be doing social media from the get-go. Your audience is where you're going to present your product to. It's really the core of your awareness as a brand. So we want to make that possible for small business owners, which is why it's like outsourcing it and putting it into someone who is so expert at this, that this is exactly what they do, that their time is, like I said, it takes them 1/4 of the time, which means we can charge 1/4 of the price. And because we're growing a following and because the monetary results grow with that, it really is something that maybe we start low, but we're willing to invest in you and we're willing to take you there because we know that we can and we know the results.
Well, that was a really great summary of exactly why you should outsource. You can apply this, not just to social, you guys, but to whatever else it is. Would you bring, let's say you have a BMW, would you bring your BMW to like a Kia dealership to have them fix it? No. So would you have your friend's son who just graduated college and is jobless and bored do your taxes just because they have the time and they have a college degree, even though it's not in it? No, you wouldn't. It doesn't make sense. It's the same for social. If you just put it in the hands of, I know my neighbor Jeff, all he does is spend all day on social media, therefore he's good at it. No. It's a business. There's a strategy behind it.
Exactly. And it's really fascinating how social for businesses, it really hasn't gained that exposure and people just don't get that as much as they do for other aspects of their business. People they bring on an intern, and I'm talking big established startups. I mean, when I was in college, I worked for many startups as a social media intern and I had no idea what I was doing. And they're outsourcing their website to huge designers, whereas your social media is your storefront, much more than your website. Your
I
website
agree.
is where the transactions take place. Your social media is where your people are.
Totally. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on. You gave such high value, tips and insight. And if you guys have, any further questions or now you're all jazzed and you want to outsource, I'm going to have all the links, all the things, all the stuff in show notes. So you can follow Analiese directly at AMR Digital on Instagram, but I'm going to have her website, which by the way is amazingly designed and she has all of her packages on there and such. But because she just explained that she likes being social on social, go and comment, try it out, send her a DM and ask her a question, ask her a social media question, see what happens. I didn't know her until today, but I reached out and she's on my show. How about that?
Yeah, honestly, guys, ask questions, ask. That's the biggest advice I could give to anyone starting a business is just to ask and reach out because you don't know until someone says no. You're never going to get a yes unless you ask. So, and we feature questions we get from people almost every day on social media. There's no dumb questions. There's no dumb questions.
There you go. Well, we'll end on that note. Thanks so much for coming on. This was awesome. And you guys tune in and make sure that you subscribe. And also, it'd be awesome if you could leave a review and tell us what you liked about this episode. Thanks so much. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.